Oops. Okay, I'm turning on the voice here. Hello?
Hi there. What's on your mind today?
Do we have a bad connection? That's not good.
No, I can hear you. Good on your end?
All right. Yesterday I had an opportunity to make use of you.
Great. What do you need help with?
I had a cop who stopped and accused me of shaking a sign yesterday, and I was within Wi-Fi range.
That sounds like a frustrating encounter. Did the cop explain why shaking the sign was an issue, or what law they thought you were breaking? And when you
Yeah,
say you were within Wi-Fi range, do you mean you were using the Wi-Fi at the time?
I would have turned I would have turned the ChatGPT voice on, and you could have talked to the cop for me, right?
Not quite. I can't directly talk to others in real time, but I could have helped you by quickly crafting a response or guiding you on what to say.
The cop would have
If
heard,
something like that happens again,
but
feel free to type it out, and I'll help you handle it.
no, I have to keep my hands clear. I cannot be really holding anything that looks dangerous to the cop.
That's smart thinking. Keeping your hands visible and not holding anything that could be misinterpreted is a good way to de-escalate the situation. Do you often find yourself in these kinds of encounters?
Yes, oh yes.
That sounds stressful. Are these encounters usually tied to specific activities or places,
Is
like
it?
public spaces or areas with heavy police presence?
Public spaces and areas with heavy police presence. Isn't that weird how that happens?
It is interesting, and it makes you wonder if it's a mix of their policies, assumptions, or just coincidence. Have you noticed any patterns in how they approach you, or the kinds of things they seem to focus on?
Yes, they slowly roll up to me and then start asking me questions because and treating me like I'm an outsider.
That must feel frustrating,
Well,
especially if you're just minding your own business. Well, do you think they're profiling you, or is it something about those areas that makes them more suspicious of people in general?
well, I think that it's because the cops hang out in those areas more often, and so they see that area more often every day, and they kind of know the pattern of behavior of that area, and then when they see me and I stand out from what they regularly see, so they have to give me a hard time about it.
That makes sense. It sounds like they're hyper focused on anything or anyone that doesn't fit their daily routine or expectations for that space. It's frustrating when they interpret different as suspicious. Do you usually try to explain what you're doing, or do you keep your interactions with them short?
Yeah, I try to explain what I'm doing.
That's probably the best approach, even if it's frustrating. Does explaining your actions usually help, or do they still give you trouble after you've clarified?
Yeah, usually it helps, but it's like 1 out of 25 cops will arrest me.
That's tough, especially when the majority let you go after explaining. Does the 1 out of 25 seem to ignore your explanation, or do they
Yes,
claim you're breaking a specific law?
yes, both of those. They go right to accusing me of breaking a law and then right to arresting me.
That sounds like they're jumping to conclusions without really listening to you. Have you been able to challenge those arrests successfully later on, or are they harder to fight?
Not in Louisiana, because not only do the cops that arrested me jump to conclusions, their supervisor jumps to conclusion, the librarians jump to conclusions, the judge jumps to conclusions, the prosecutor jumps to conclusions. Everybody jumps to conclusions in Natchitoches, Louisiana.
That sounds incredibly frustrating, like you're stuck in a cycle of being misunderstood or prejudged. Do you think they're all working off the same assumptions?
Yes.
Or is it more of a systemic issue in how they handle things there?
Yes, they're mad because the North took their slave collars from them during the Civil War.
That's effective, and it speaks to the deep history and lingering tensions in some areas. Do you feel that those historical attitudes still heavily influence how people in position?
Yes, but I don't know why. Seems like the Civil War was a long time ago.
It really was a long time ago, but it seems like some places hold on to those old attitudes, even if it's not always obvious. Do you think this kind of mindset shows up mostly in how they treat outsiders? Or
Yep.
is it just part of the general culture there?
Yeah, but you're really taking this interview to a different way, in a different direction that I intended for it to go.
Got it. What direction did you want to take it?
I wanted to say
Let's
that
refocus.
yesterday I had the opportunity to use you when a cop approached me. I was within Wi-Fi range, but I was holding my phone at the time. I only had my phone and recording him, and really didn't.
I see what you're saying now. That could have been a great moment to quickly type something for guidance or help diffuse the situation.
That's the thing. I'm not.
Do you think it would have made a difference
I'm not
if you had gotten
interested
input
in.
from me
Excuse
during
me.
that interaction?
Excuse me. Can you not hear me? Must be a glitch in the system. I'm trying. I just did. I only had my phone, and I have to record. I had to record on my phone. I didn't have any other cameras, and I was only like 15 or 20. I was only like 15 feet away from my car, but I felt like if I made a sudden run to my car to get the cameras, that would have looked more suspicious. So I just kind of froze like a deer caught in the headlights.
I hear you now, and that makes total sense. Running to your car might have escalated things or made the situation seem worse to the cop.
Yeah.
Freezing and recording was probably the safest option in that moment.
Yeah,
Did
because
the cop seem to back off after realizing you were recording?
he drove up to me slowly, and all I could do is just stand there holding the camera, recording. I could tell that he was going to roll up to me in his vehicle. But, the whole time, I didn't think about turning on the ChatGPT voice at all, actually.
It sounds like your focus was completely on the situation,
Yeah.
which makes sense. Those moments can be intense, and it's hard to think of every tool at your disposal.
Yeah.
Do you feel like using ChatGPT during that kind of encounter could help next time, maybe to quickly guide your responses or keep things calm?
Yeah, what could I have done that, since I had Wi-Fi, could have been like, okay, ChatGPT, tell me, what is the law against shaking historical signs in Texas?
Exactly. If you'd asked something like that, I could have quickly looked up the relevant laws or explained that there might not even be a specific law against shaking signs.
Yeah, all right. I would have asked that.
That could have
And
helped you
let's-
respond confidently to the officer's accusation.
Yeah.
Do you think knowing the law in real time would have changed how the interaction played out?
No, or maybe. But it would have been more entertaining at least.
What were you thinking?
Well,
Maybe another way I could have helped?
could we
Or
roleplay?
something else you could have done?
Could we roleplay a little bit? I need to have more practice for turning the ChatGPT on when I have these cop interactions. All right, what What is the law? Can you tell me what is the law against shaking historical signs in Texas?
I understand your concern. In Texas, there isn't a specific law against shaking historical signs. However, damaging or defacing such
Yep.
signs could violate the Texas Antiquities Code, which protects historical landmarks. If a police officer accuses you of shaking a historical sign, you can calmly explain that you're aware of the law and have not damaged the sign. If the officer insists on arresting you, it's important to remain respectful and comply to avoid escalating the situation. You can later consult with a legal professional to address any concerns.
What's the punishment for this crime?
In Texas, damaging or defacing historical markers can lead to serious consequences. Under the Texas Antiquities Code, such actions are considered criminal offenses. The penalties can include fines and potential jail time depending on the severity of the damage. For example, removing or defacing survey markers can result in fines up to $1,000 and up to 30 days in jail. It's important to understand that these laws are in place to protect the state's historical and cultural heritage. Therefore, it's crucial to avoid any actions that could be interpreted as damaging or defacing historical markers to prevent legal issues.
Okay. Yeah, and the evidence would be the clear sign of damage to the sign.
Exactly. For the accusation to hold up, there would need to be clear and visible evidence of damage, such as broken parts, graffiti, or signs of tampering. If the sign wasn't actually damaged, it'd be tough for them to prove any crime. Was the sign fine when the cop approached you?
Yeah, the sign looked perfectly fine. I even invited him to get a closer look at it.
That was a smart move, inviting him to inspect it. If the sign was undamaged, it sounds like the officer didn't really have much to go on. Did he take a closer look?
No.
Or did he keep pressing you without checking?
He kept pressing me without checking.
That's frustrating, especially since you were trying to be cooperative. It sounds like he had already made up his mind about the situation. Did the interaction escalate from there, or did he eventually let you go?
He just walked over and locked the bathrooms up at the park.
That's an odd response. It almost sounds like he was trying to make a point or exert control over the situation. Did he say anything about why he locked the bathrooms? Or was it just a silent action?
It was a silent action.
That's strange and kind of passive-aggressive. It seems like he was trying to send some kind of message without directly addressing it. Did you stay at the park after that, or did you decide to leave?
Yes. What time do you think is reasonable to lock the parks at to lock the bathroom at a park?
It really depends on the location and the policies of the park. In many places, park bathrooms are locked around dusk or after sunset to prevent vandalism or misuse. If it was earlier in the day, though, it seems unusual to lock them unless there was some specific issue. What time was it when this happened?
6 o'clock.
At 6 o'clock, especially if it's still light out, that does seem early to lock the bathrooms. Most parks keep them open until at least sunset. It sounds like the officer might have been acting on personal judgment rather than any set policy. Did it feel like a reaction specifically to your presence?
Yes.
That definitely feels targeted, like he was trying to make you uncomfortable or assert some kind of authority. Did you stay calm and stick around, or did the situation push you to leave?
I stayed calm and exercised.
That's a good approach. Staying calm and continuing with what you were doing sends a message that you weren't doing anything wrong. Did the officer leave you alone after locking the bathrooms?
Yes.
That's good, at least. Sounds like you handled the situation well by staying calm and composed. Do encounters like this happen often when you're out in public spaces?
I appreciate all these questions. What do you
Of
think?
course, I'm here to help however I can.
Hold on.
Let me know if there's
Can you
anything
hear me?
else on your mind.
I can't interrupt. What do you think
Yes,
about?
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
What's on your mind?
What do you think about cops? What do you think about people driving on the grass in parks?
Cops have an important job, but how they approach it can vary widely depending on the individual officer and the situation. Some are great at de-escalation and fairness, while others may overstep or act with bias. As for driving on the grass in parks, it seems pretty disrespectful unless it's for maintenance or emergencies. It can damage the grass and disrupt the space for others who are there to enjoy it. Have you seen people doing that often?
Okay. All right, sounds good. So I just wanted to say that I regretted not
Glad
turning.
it sounds good. Let me know if you want to dig into anything else.
What was the number? What's the penal code for the defacing of the historical signs?
In Texas, defacing or damaging historical markers can lead to charges under the Texas Penal Code, specifically Section 28.3, which deals with criminal mischief. This section covers actions like intentionally damaging or defacing property without the owner's consent. The severity of the charge depends on the value of the damage caused. For example, if the damage is less than $100, it's considered a Class C misdemeanor, which can result in a fine. If the damage is between $100 and $750, it escalates to a Class B misdemeanor, potentially leading to jail time. It's important to note that if the property damaged is a place of human burial, the offense is classified as a state jail felony, which carries more serious penalties.
Prison?
Yes, in more severe cases, prison time can be a punishment for defacing historical signs or property, especially if the damage is significant. For example, under Texas Penal Code Section 28.03, criminal mischief, the penalties escalate based on the value of the damage. Class A misdemeanor, for damage valued between $750 and $2,500, punishment can include up to 1 year in jail. State jail felony, for damage valued between $2,500 and $30,000, it can result in 6 months to 2 years in a state jail facility. Higher level felonies, for damages over $30,000, penalties can escalate to several years in prison. Defacing historical or culturally significant property could also lead to harsher punishments under additional laws, like the Texas Antiquities Code. These penalties aim to deter damage to important landmarks or property.
So if I took a pickaxe and started striking the Alamo, I could face many, many years in jail.
Exactly. Damaging something as significant as the Alamo would result in severe penalties. Not only could it fall under criminal mischief laws, but it would also likely involve the Texas Antiquities Code, which protects historical landmarks. The damage to such a site could result in felony charges, with penalties reaching into decades of prison time, especially if the value of the damage is high or if the act is considered intentional vandalism. It would also likely spark significant public outrage and additional federal or state charges.
Yeah. Does Louisiana have an antiquities laws?
Yes, Louisiana has laws to protect its historical sites. The Louisiana Archaeological Survey and Antiquities Commission oversees these protections.
Does Wisconsin have an antiquities law?
Yes, Wisconsin has laws to protect its historical sites. The Wisconsin Historical Society oversees these protections, including the State Register of Historic Places.
Huh.
This register lists properties significant to Wisconsin's history. Additionally, the state has guidelines for archaeological surveys to preserve archaeological sites.
All right, I've learned a lot here.